Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking time out today. If you do have to drop off, don't worry, that recording will be sent over to you. We're going to do a live Q&A at the end of the demo as well. And if you have any questions throughout, you can ask that in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll address as many questions as we can before the time does run out. Feel free to ask them throughout. We'll try to get to them as they pop up, either in the chat or and wait till the Q&A. Who are we? On the left, Richard Malik, that's myself. I'm the Senior Technical Product Manager here at Automox. Joining me from CrowdStrike, gracing us with his very wonderful Scottish presence, we have Con Mallon. Con, say hello to the people.
Hello, people.
Con, what is it that you do for CrowdStrike?
That's a great question, Richard. I ostensibly head up product marketing here at CrowdStrike.
Wonderful, wonderful. How long have you been with them?
I have been with CrowdStrike just over 5 years now.
Wow, wow. So you've definitely been through the roller coaster with them. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, Con's joining me today on this webinar because, as it has been in the news quite a bit recently, with CrowdStrike and Automox, we did join up a partnership. We wanted to get in front of it and kind of introduce what is CrowdStrike. You know, let's talk about what CrowdStrike is and who they are, and then how is Automox fitting into the security landscape. What is this partnership? And then finally, what is some questions and answers? We're also going to do a demo of the Better Together. So shall we get started, Con?
Please do, if you can move the slide for me, Richard. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Richard, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to everybody this morning. Let me reassure you here. We say that when I talk about CrowdStrike, and probably your minds immediately go to, I'm going to now use 10 slides to basically sell you CrowdStrike. That's not what I'm intending to do here at all. I just want to use 2 slides to basically better familiarize some of you with CrowdStrike if you're not already familiar with us. Ultimately, people ask me, well, what do you guys do? And we kind of, we've been saying this for the last 5 years. What we're focused on is we help companies stop breaches. Now, that's a big claim. But I would simply back it up. In the 9 years that the company's been in existence, not one of our customers has had a reportable breach. So obviously we're standing behind that claim and we're living up to that promise for our customers. The other thing is, how do we do that? I'll explain that a little bit in the next slide or next couple of slides, but really our focus is on the endpoint. And the reason why we focused on the endpoint to basically stop the breaches, ultimately that is where the data lies. And whatever way you basically characterize cyber criminality in whatever shape or form, is ultimately they're trying to get to something of value, and that thing of value tends to be data, and that's really why our focus is there. Richard, can you move it to the next slide? So at the end of the day, we like to say that we're redefining security for the cloud era. We were very fast to lean into the cloud in terms of using that as a new paradigm to basically solve what is really an old problem in terms of protecting people's data and stopping the breach. Now, at the end of the day, there are lots and lots of security companies, and there are many of those companies who have an endpoint play. So it's not an unreasonable question. I'll ask it on your behalf to say, well, what's different about CrowdStrike? How do we stand out and differentiate ourselves? And I think it really comes down into these 3 areas that we kind of stand behind for our customers, which is really about focusing on using the cloud to provide better protection. By better protection, that means trying to span all of the threats that are coming your way, be they focused on malware or be they non-malware approaches. So we have a great protection capability there. The second thing is about performance. Again, I describe, endpoint protection. There has been in the past with some of the legacy approaches. It was really akin to root canal work. Hey, it had to be done, but nobody would really sign up for it, and it's painful as hell. Really, I think, now with the arrival of cloud approaches, and certainly the approach from CrowdStrike, we're trying to make it, more performant and a better experience for our customers. So, for example, you don't have to kind of load multiple agents onto the endpoint to protect it. You don't have to reboot that endpoint once you put the agent onto it. You don't have to go in and rip out your data center to basically configure this new tech stack that's coming at you. It's basically all taken care of from the cloud for you. And probably more importantly is at the end of the day, protection, security, categorize it whatever way you want. At the end of the day, you want to get to the result that you're looking for as fast as possible as a business and as a security professional or an IT professional. And therefore, our focus has been trying to, what we talk about, better time to value, which is basically to live up to the promise about why you've hired us as CrowdStrike to do the job that you want us to do. And to help out with that, we're trying to simplify the experience of working with CrowdStrike. Again, you can deploy it almost immediately. We've had customers who've deployed it to hundreds of thousands of endpoints, literally in a matter of a few hours. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is make sure that you as an organization, have a better tool sets and capabilities to basically defeat the adversary. So that really is about the three things that kind of make us stand out. If you move to the next slide, Richard. So how do we do this? Now, this slide is incredibly busy, and I'm not going to spend too much time, describing this to you, because we could be literally talk about this for the rest of the day, never mind this session. But what we have here at CrowdStrike is our FALCON platform, and this is basically a rendition of what we would describe as a FALCON platform. At the bottom third of the screen there, you can see, it all comes back to this very lightweight agent that we deploy down onto whatever your endpoint is. Let's call them workloads now. We don't really care whether it's a laptop, a desktop, a server, a virtualized device, cloud, whatever, a mobile. We have a capability to put our agent down onto that and then start to protect it. In terms of the focus kind of capabilities we have here, best way to read this chart in the kind of middle section is to go from left to right. Our focus is obviously endpoint security, and we have a lot of capabilities and applications that we've built to basically do that job of work and address those use cases. Then next to that is really about looking at security and IT operations. So this is really looking at additional use cases that add to your security posture. Things like vulnerability management, which is really where we're going to start to kind of dive into in terms of the discussion with our friends here at Automox, and other things such as IT hygiene and threat hunting. They all live in that kind of second pillar. The third thing that we have in the platform is threat intelligence. We can bamboozle our customers with lots and lots of claims about how much data we're basically processing through this platform, and it really is quite head-turning. But at the end of the day, one of the differentiators again for CrowdStrike is that from the day the company was set up, we had a focus and a capability on threat intel, because really what you have to do with that data is you basically have to put it into context. You have to position you as customers to have better situational awareness about what the context you find yourself in, to allow you to make smarter decisions about how you're basically going to protect yourself and stop the breach. So we have that. Now, the fourth pillar that we've introduced, and this is relatively new, is with regard to the CrowdStrike store. And I'm going to go on to just talk about this in the next couple of slides that follow on here. The whole thing about the platform here, guys, is about speed. You could look at this slide and say, well, that looks very, very complex to bring all of that together. Again, one of the big claims we've had out there is we use this platform, this approach, this architecture, this philosophy, call it what you will, to really solve the problem of security. And we try and do it with speed. We believe that this platform allows our customers to detect a threat within 1 minute, to understand it and start the triage process within 10 minutes, and ultimately to remediate and remove the threat within 60 minutes. And we believe this 1-10-60 rule, as we've called it, and we've been kind of talking about it for the last year or so, is if you have that operational cadence, then there are very few, if any, of the adversaries out there who could basically match that. And that puts you in a much stronger foothold to basically, as I said, to protect your environment and take you and your organization out of the firing line in terms of the bad guys. So in terms of, Richard, can you move on to the next slide? Just talking about the store there. That is a very expansive platform, but I said the reason we built the fourth pillar, the store there, is that CrowdStrike, we're good at many things, but we're not actually good at everything. And I think that's unrealistic for us to say that. There are use cases that our customers will have, which we cannot address as CrowdStrike. We just don't have that institutional knowledge or domain expertise, whatever it is. I said our focus is really about being the best endpoint protection play out there. And again, that has given us that focus to do that job of work, but we're aware that other things need to be done for customers. So we've really developed this CrowdStrike store to allow our customers to multiply their investment in the platform and allow them to solve new security challenges. And those new security challenges are really achieved by our trusted partners such as Automox, who develop and deliver value-added apps, hopefully with ease, and they can take advantage of the FALCON platform and the architecture, the infrastructure we've built there. They can take advantage of the massive data set and data lake that we have as a result of that platform being deployed out to many, many customers. And the APIs that we have that basically open up that platform, and that allows them to address additional use cases that our customer base would really benefit from. And in terms of, Richard, you move it to the next slide. We're building the store. It takes time to basically, get these apps up and running. These are the current apps that we have in the store there. And again, as I said, these address additional use cases that you wouldn't traditionally think of CrowdStrike being involved in. Like we are not an ICS IoT play. We're not really in attack surface management, but we've got partners who have developed apps that hook into the platform, benefit from our platform, and it can address that use case for a CrowdStrike customer. So just to give you a focus on Automox and a use case that they're basically addressing, let me just kind of show the interplay between the CrowdStrike FALCON platform and Automox. So Richard, you can go to the next slide. So we have, as CrowdStrike, a module we call FALCON Spotlight. And FALCON Spotlight is really focused on vulnerability management. So we have the ability, given we have that FALCON sensor, once it's down and onto that endpoint workload, call it what you will, we can basically see what is happening on that endpoint. So we don't have to scan again, say if we want to see, hey, look, what vulnerabilities or what patch levels are present in the operating system and major applications are on that endpoint. We can basically report back on that. And that's not, we're having to do a scan for that. We've got that information up in the cloud immediately available, So again, it's a very effective and efficient way of looking at, the vulnerabilities that may be at play in the environment. And what we can do is we can look at vulnerabilities at the OS level with the major applications, with browsers, or with kind of infrastructure applications, say .NET Framework or Java or Python, etc. And we can basically bring all of that information back to the security operations team or the IT team to basically give them a view as to what is the disposition with regard to vulnerabilities in terms of the environment there. Can you move it to the next slide? But that's the job that we do as CrowdStrike, but not unnaturally, a lot of our customers would then say, when they look at those dashboards, to say, well, thank you very much, CrowdStrike. You now told me I have these vulnerabilities in the environment, but really now what I would like to do is to harden my endpoints to reduce the attack surface. So what you got? What would you recommend, CrowdStrike? And that really is the kind of the use case for the CrowdStrike store, which is to say, well, look, we've done our job of work here with Spotlight, we've helped out here, but here we have a partner with Automox who are domain experts, have great capability with regard to really understanding how to harden endpoints and to do patch management. And therefore, we would suggest you use their application to basically address that use case. And I think this is probably the perfect time for me to hand it back off to Richard for him to explain, how Automox do that, and hopefully give us a little demo of how it all works.
Awesome, I appreciate that, Con. Hopefully that gives everyone a quick high-level overview of CrowdStrike. There's a lot to the product. I've been working with them for the past couple of months, and I'm still learning something every single day, even having been in this space for over a decade. It's incredible what new technology and the next generation players have brought to the table, especially with the focus on the EDR and using of machine learning and the like. The platform play has been a wonderful solution for us to be involved in, but ultimately it comes down to this one problem that we're trying to solve, and that is speed. Now, CrowdStrike is solving that through their 11060 threshold that they have established. In our realm, speed is the only true security advantage. And that doesn't matter what product you're using. Let's just be honest. Let's throw that into the general idea. You have a short period of time to respond to any attack that's going on if it has not already been prevented. So something that has gotten through, you have a short period of time. But on top of that, speed needs to also apply to the fortification of your security. And that's where Automox is sitting. But what we're going up against is incredible. Now, typically when you talk to security organizations, you're talking to them, they're saying, we're dealing with 390,000 pieces of malware every single day. They're also not talking about the way those pieces of malware are getting in. Those attacks are being placed on your network. The unfortunate cycle is it's taking 5 minutes to install a patch and reboot the system, but it's taking organizations an average of 102 days to identify, prioritize, and act on critical vulnerabilities. 102 days. I want you to remember that. Now, there's only 22,000, I say only 22,000 new vulnerabilities per year, but 33% of them are critical, and 60 of them there's 60 new vulnerabilities every single day. So that's 60 potential ways into your network, into your infrastructure. In the terms of CrowdStrike, in terms of what they're dealing with, that's the EPP player. That's on the right here. You have all this technology built into one single platform. You have antivirus, you have HIPS, anti-exploiting, sandboxing, behavioral analysis, EDR, and a lot more tools that are focused on that. But on the left, you have endpoint hardening, and that's Automox. Automox is an endpoint hardening tool. Many of you are already customers, you understand this. You're understanding that every single day you're having to respond to these vulnerabilities that have been revealed. You're having to deploy out the third-party and multi-OS patches to ensure that your infrastructure is locked down. Now, in the big scheme of things, endpoint hardening is not the big fence around the building. It's not going to keep everybody out. It's just like if you were to drive by a federal office or a government building, they've got that little barrier up around it. They've got the security guards right there. If you drive by it, now that's just a barrier to keep the easy attacks out. But if that wall was down and the doors were unlocked, or somebody forgot to even lock the door or patch that vulnerability, the security team inside that building is going to be working harder, not smarter. So ultimately, in order to fortify it, in order to give a solid foundation for your EPP, for CrowdStrike, you've got to ensure that you're patching your machines. You have to ensure that you're mitigating these vulnerabilities. You're practicing proper cyber hygiene. Enforcing local policies, all that. That's where we fit into this whole big picture. Let's talk about that model of speed. Now on the right, we had Con kind of brought it up, the 11060 rule. This is something that CrowdStrike presented. This is the threshold that they are challenging their customers, and they are challenging their own internal teams that are acting as SOC, Security Operations Center, to respond to. They have 1 minute to detect a breach, 10 minutes to understand it, and then 60 minutes to contain and eradicate it. And this is all based off the metrics that are provided to them and through all the research that they've done, understanding how the attackers are getting in and how fast they are laterally moving across networks. There's this really great metric. If you ever have some time to burn, as we all work from home, you can look it up. They have it broken down on the CrowdStrike website, which nation-state actors move the fastest. And it really puts things into perspective of what we in the security realm are dealing with every single day. Now that's that 2-hour breakout time. That's the incursion part. Now on the left though, we've got the mean-time-to-hardening. And this comes into play for one specific reason. While the 11060 rule is informing the prioritization of your hardening strategy, you need to understand, because you need to understand which threats need your attention, all based off the EDR. Ultimately, you need an approach that's going to fortify it. The 2472 rule, that's what we're talking about, is an approach to support the 11060. And with the two in place, an organization can prioritize critical action and remediate even at scale. When vulnerabilities are patched in a timely manner, that's within that 7-day window. When the weaponized actions are released against your EDR and thusly your organization, you will be better prepared. And in the same vein of establishing a strong beachhold, it would be a poor strategy and require more energy to spread a defended position across a large swath of land. In order to win a battle against an attacker, this specifically a cyber attacker, we need to be strategic. You need to have a targeted approach and command of the battlefield. And that's how we're going to win. So in order for the 11060 rule to not be overwhelming, a SecOps needs to be patching or coordinating the patches within their infrastructure in a timely manner. And there's a reason for this. On average, it's taking an attacker 7 days to weaponize a vulnerability. That means from the date that it is revealed to the world, on average, 7 days later, a weaponization is available, and usually available on the web, through the dark web. It means they're sharing the resources, they're getting it out there. That means you have 24 hours to respond to a critical vulnerability, a 0 day, and then 72 hours to respond to the rest of them. And by doing that, you're closing the gap and you're getting ahead of that weaponization. This also helps to keep you within compliance from everything from HIPAA to PCI and so many more compliances that are coming out. Because in the end, you don't want to fall within that 102 days of average time to vulnerability. There's a little piece of corn there, and I'm going to kind of talk about that real quick. Here's the crazy thing about the idea of 102 days. We're getting into spring. I can take a corn kernel and I can plant it in the ground. I can grow that corn into a stalk. I can harvest that corn at time and serve it to my family before the average organization has patched their endpoints against critical vulnerabilities. So ultimately what that is doing is that is setting your security team, your security operations team, and all your responses to have to work harder, not smarter. Many of you have heard our phrase, we want you to patch your shit. The 2472 rule is helping to make sure that you're hardening proactively at the speed that your businesses need and respond and removing all the noises from the detection systems, just so you're running more effectively, especially in this day and age where we have all been fast-paced to be working from home, where our infrastructure has changed, our needs have changed. Now is time more than ever to stay ahead of your security needs. We want your EDR, we want CrowdStrike to work smarter. And we want them to be more tuned aggressively than bogged down with alerts. Automox's CrowdStrike's 11060 rule is informing that prioritization, and we are supporting that with the 2472-hour rule. The endpoint security revolution didn't end with cloud-native EDR, ultimately. As much as I love CrowdStrike, as much as I love the endpoint security space, we know that that was just the beginning of the advanced security protocols that are being delivered. In fact, this is just the beginning of what is to come. But there should be zero tolerance or low tolerance for false positives. And this is how we're going to get there. So to better together, the Automox Cyber Hygiene platform is used by more than 1,300 customers worldwide, and they're dramatically reducing the exploitable attack surface by eliminating the systematic exposures that adversaries are leveraging. It's just simple stuff, just patching, deploying out a patch, deploying out an update. But by accelerating this mean-time-to-hardening that we've been talking about, Automox is enabling critical vulnerabilities to be remediated before they can be weaponized. And then alongside CrowdStrike's advanced endpoint protection capabilities, Automox is enabling customers to proactively mitigate vulnerabilities discovered through FALCON Spotlight Dashboard, which Con went over and we'll go through in a little bit of a demo. With the information provided through Spotlight, joint customers can quickly resolve all the issues for their managed endpoints, no matter their location, all without the need for a VPN and on-premise management servers. And plus, the strategic partnership between Automox and CrowdStrike is helping to minimize the manual efforts between patch management and risk mitigation through automation. And we're doing that all while ensuring endpoints are protected against the most advanced threats with CrowdStrike Falcon. Now, the reason why we want you to use CrowdStrike, CrowdStrike Falcon, CrowdStrike Falcon Spotlight, all their modules, is because when you're doing an investigation, you are able to pivot all within one single console. And then once you have the information, you are able to respond as needed. And if that need is, hey, we need to deploy out a patch, we need to deploy out a worklet, we need to deploy out some kind of mitigation action, that can be done through the Automox tool. We're providing full coverage of automated endpoint hardening with advanced endpoint protection. Ultimately, we want to raise your security confidence. We want to make you a smaller target, and we want vulnerabilities to end today. So with that, I'm going to pop over to a demo environment. I'm going to kind of show just the quick workflow that's going on with this. Let me load this up right here. I have my instance of CrowdStrike Spotlight open. This is the Spotlight dashboard. It's already logged in right here. Now, if you're not an Automox customer, I'm going to quickly go through that workflow just so you'll see what's happening. If you're interested in trialing out Automox, and you're a CrowdStrike customer, you would come in here, you'd see the activity dashboard. If you scroll all the way down here on the left, down to CrowdStrike Store, you can see the store that Con was talking about. Got a couple different applications. Of course, here's us, Automox here. Instead of it saying open app and manage updates, what it would say was trial now. You click that trial button, it would automatically sign you up, help you deploy out the agents to your Windows-based machines, and then you would be signed up for a 45-day trial. In this case, my trial has already started, clearly, because I work for the company. So I press Open App. It's going to open up my Automox, and there it is. Very simple workflow in terms of trying to keep us as easy as possible. Now, coming back here to CrowdStrike Spotlight. Now, this is their Spotlight vulnerability tool. We see here within this environment, we are seeing 151 critical vulnerabilities. We have just under 6,000 high vulnerabilities and under 2,000 or a little over 2,000 medium vulnerabilities. You come in here, you can click through, and you're able to see all the vulnerabilities that need to be patched within this demo environment. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this one, CVE 2019-0938. We're going to come over here to the Automox dashboard, click on the software tab, go type in CVE 2019-0938. We're going to see right here that within this environment, it's already patched out. Now, if the patch was available, of course, this little logo right here would be show that was available. Oops, should have clicked that. And you would be able to take the action right here, patch now. But since the patch is already deployed, it's done. So we're confident. We're able to go back to our investigation and continue going about our day. It's as simple as that. Now, I want to address always the elephant in the room when it comes to the talk of these two companies working together. Just before we get into the questions and answers, this is the workflow that we have going on now. There's a lot of talk and a lot of work going on in the background to minimize that workflow, to make it a lot simpler for users. What I mean is a full-fledged integration. But that conversation is still going on. How our teams are going to work out, how the data feeds are coming in, that's going to be something to be seen in the future. I don't have a timeline on that. And once that timeline is available and shareable, I promise you, we will get it out there and we will share it with the world. Here's our timeline, because that is something we are excited about. But until that time comes, we have worked hard to make this workflow as easy as possible. On top of that, we're continuously working towards new worklets and new scripts to help with deployment and solve all the problems that have popped up for our customers. We want to make sure that we are providing a solution that keeps your endpoints and your network secure. I hope that was a really quick demo. It just shows you how easy it is. At this time, we're going to open it up for questions. Scott Lance, hey, great question. How can we easily deploy Automox to our computers? we have a worklet for that. If you go to Automox Alive, the community, we have the worklet already written up to help you deploy that out. We will make sure that a link to the community is provided in the follow-up email. Great question. Sackett Labs from ThreatAware. I'm an Automox but not CrowdStrike customer. Does CrowdStrike monitor third-party software vulnerabilities as well as OS like Automox?
Yes, we do. In terms of, we look at the OS vulnerabilities. And again, this is just for Windows at this point in time. So again, I think I need to make that distinction. We also then have coverage across, the major Microsoft Office app vulnerabilities, the major browsers, Adobe apps. We've got, again, coverage in there. So we're, in terms of that kind of application vulnerabilities, we're enhancing that, as we go along. And then I think I mentioned on the call, again, some of the kind of critical infrastructure vulnerabilities. So stuff in .NET we can look at, Python, Java, etc. So again, it's a kind of expanding ecosystem of vulnerabilities that we can identify using that Falcon Spotlight module that I talked about.
I hope that answers your question. Abraham, through CrowdStrike's console, what's the best way to run a report on how many systems with CrowdStrike installed and do not have Automox installed as well? Ooh, Con, that's definitely you, my friend.
So there probably is a way of going about that, Abraham. I haven't really thought it through in detail, but an outline. We have a module called Falcon Discover. And through Discover, it can basically, itemize applications that are installed on that endpoint. And I'm sure that we could identify the Automox agent within there. And therefore, we could do that cross-correlation between, okay, I have all of these endpoints that have CrowdStrike installed, and here are the ones that are reporting on that query with Automox. So I'm sure that we could basically write a query in our EM repository. So yes, potentially there is a way we could do that.
Awesome. Thanks, Con. Hey, Jack, you're asking a really good question, and I think it's one that we should definitely address. What does pairing the Automox endpoint hardening from CrowdStrike Store do? It seemed like in this demo, the only use case was enabled by Spotlight. Well, this is a yes or no, yes and no question. So because there's just two forms with that. Automox endpoint hardening, just from our store, if you were to, or from the CrowdStrike store, if you were to go in, you would be able to sign up, deploy it out, and have that 45-day trial with our relationship. Do you need the Spotlight module? No. But the reason why we want you to use the Spotlight module is to keep your security team in one console for any kind of research and investigation that happens. The easiest way to keep to respond and come up with a plan of attack is by simplifying the workflow. And what Spotlight is doing is providing all the details of what you need to do if a vulnerability or 0-day is detected, and then from there, responding with Automox, because Spotlight doesn't have that capability. They are two different tools. Ultimately, our goal is to make sure that you are responding and reacting and mitigating as quickly as possible. So in order for the team to do that and pivot properly, we encourage Spotlight to do that. And Jack, you are correct. It is try it for free. That's just their wording for demo. Try it for free. 45-day trial with that comes with it. If you click that, it'll take you through the system. So I hope I answered those questions. These are, holy crap, these are great questions. We're coming up on the end of the webinar. We put in 45 minutes. I'm glad we did. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for spending your time with Con and I. Follow-up email, we'll have some links to our Automox Alive community on using worklets to deploy out CrowdStrike. We will also have a link there from CrowdStrike that will direct you if you're interested in talking to CrowdStrike. You have to click that link. They will not be reaching out to you directly unless you click that link. So don't worry about that. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My name is Richard Mellick. Con, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people, and thank you very much for your time and attention on the webinar. And Richard, thank you to you for inviting me along.
Of course, it's always fun to have friends along for the ride. Everyone, stay safe, wash your hands, have a great day.